When we take dogs across the dog walk, or we take them through a tunnel, or we get them oriented to the teeter-totter, we're not just doing it just because these are the things that agility would teach them. We're doing it for the confidence. They're on a different surface. They're on an elevated surface. The surface is moving. The surface feels different. So it's not just grass. It's not just concrete. It's not just gravel. We put different surfaces in there. Sometimes we put a tarp out that makes sounds when they move. And this is just all confidence and exposure, to their environmentals that just, make the dog more confident in what they're doing, in their environment. So it's really, really important whether you're playing or whether you're actually teaching agility. It's just really important for them.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Lianne Shinton from Automation Dogs, and I run a software CRM for dog trainers. In my podcast, I talk to dog trainers and professionals in the pet industry. Today, I'm so excited because Tiffany Wetzel is here from Defender Canine. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Fantastic to hear. And I'm excited to interview you today because I want to kind of know what's going on over there at Defender Canine, how you came up with Defender Canine, how you got into dogs, all that kind of stuff. And just a little backstory, I did meet Tiffany in Ohio recently because she was speaking at the Professional Canine Development Conference, which was outstanding. And the subject was on reactivity in dogs. And she's speaking to other professional dog trainers on that level. So we might dive in and might ask you a few questions about reactivity because I'm sure local pet owners would also benefit from hearing. Cool. So again, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. You are just such an inspiration in the dog training world. Could you share a little bit about how you got into dogs?
Yeah, I'm sure. It was actually my husband is a firefighter, and when the kids grew up and left, he works every third day. So he's 24 on, 48 off, regular firefighter schedule. And I thought, you know what? I don't have anybody here with me anymore. I need a dog. And he goes, he didn't want a dog. But he says, if you're gonna get a dog, you're not gonna get a small dog, you're gonna get a big dog. So I told him, and he's black is his color. I said, I want a black German Shepherd. So here's the caveat to that. He didn't know they existed. And he told me, he said, if you can find a black German Shepherd, I'll let you have one.
Cool.
And about 3 months went by, and I said, found my black German Shepherd. So that's actually how it started. It started literally a little over 10 years ago with our very first shepherd. She's all black German Shepherd. Her name was Storm. And then from there it went, well, we've got this German Shepherd, we need to train her. So at that time I wasn't thinking about dog training. I wasn't thinking anywhere near along those lines. I was just thinking, okay, I've got this dog, I need to train this dog. So we hooked up with a trainer, and it was just something that I didn't do a board and train with her, but we actually trained her. So it was a real long process. And then I got to thinking, well, you know what? There are some things that they're doing that maybe not necessarily agree with, towards the end. And I thought, you know what? I think I can do this. And that's actually how the whole idea started. A couple of years, after that passed. And then I um, signed up for my first school, and I have two diplomas for master trainers. So not that I needed to, but each school taught something different. They taught something valuable, and I just got so much from both schools. So yeah, and here I am, several years down the road with more dogs and my own business, and it all started from that one dog. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I came from a firefighter family as well. So thank you to your husband for doing that great work.
Well, then you know the schedule.
Yes, I do. I do. Yep. Yep. Glad you got your German Shepherd. And does Todd work with you in your business?
He does. Actually, I always tell people he's literally the glue that makes the business run. He is my maintenance. He actually helps me, he cleans out the kennels for me. He sometimes will rotate dogs if I'm in the middle of training other dogs. Anything that I need done, he does. Anything that I need built, he built. He actually built our outside kennels. He built the utility yard that has the dog walk, the A-frames, all of that in there. So he's just anything that I ask him, he just, will gladly, most of the time, not grumble, but he'll just do it. Like I said, I can't do it without him.
Totally get that. Totally get that. Awesome. And then how did you come up with the name Defender Canine?
All right, so this is more of another weird, type situation where when I decided that I wanted to go into business, my husband and I talked about it because starting a business is not cheap. It's not something that can't start up without money. So I needed to come up with a name that my husband was on board with also. Fluffy's forepaws would not have cut it for him. The sprinkles on the lawn, nothing like that. Although those are really cute, but I had to come up with something that he also was on board with. So we came up with the name of Defender Canine, but then I had the added pressure of coming up with a logo that didn't scream working dog, but all dogs. So, because the majority of what I do is actually obedience for dogs, but I didn't want, that name to, for people to think, hey, she only does a certain kind of dog. So then I had to come up with a logo that sort of kind of encompassed all dogs that would work with that name.
Totally get it. Totally get it. I love your logo. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So, let's talk about, you mentioned that you do a lot of like local obedience, probably behavior problem solving locally. Where is Defender Canine located? Tell us a bit about city and kind of your service area.
Sure. So we are in London, Ohio, which is just west of Columbus, and I do people from my clients are from they're from Dublin, they're from Worthington, they're from Westerville. I've got some in Springfield. I've got them quite a long ways out. Around me, at least anywhere within a 40-mile range around me. That come and bring their dogs to me. So that's those are the areas, that I normally service. I did have a call all the way from Akron on a service dog question and added training. And then I actually got another call up in Trumbull County, which is about 3.5 hours away.
Wow.
So I reach people all over.
And your facility looks awesome. I see on your website the pictures of it. It looks fantastic.
Yep, I love it because I have a big indoor space, so weather's not an
Nice.
So if it's raining, just like last week here in Ohio, I don't know about where you were, but here in Ohio last week, it was very cold. When we had wind chills down, below zeros, and then there was a couple days where it would just rain. I mean, just like constantly. So the indoor facility allows me to work whether doesn't matter what the season is or what the weather's doing. I can still work the dogs, and it's great for like beginners when we want like a non-distraction if we have like a dog that just cannot do distraction yet, so it's great for that.
Perfect. Yeah, I love having an indoor facility. And so right now it's freezing cold, like all over. It's cold here. I'm in Kansas. So would that be a way for folks to, enroll and get something going, like get active with their dogs because they can do that in your facility?
Yeah, so like just for example, right now I have a board and train that is here for obedience. Usually after the first 5, 6 days, and they've got their obedience verbal and hand signal pretty much down. Then we move to the equipment. So we bring the equipment in. We do a tunnel. We do platforms. We do hoops. Just all inside the building. Because not right now. I have them on the outside in a yard, but I have portable ones that I can bring in for weather like this. And we get the dogs moving, we get them up, we get them jumping around. And that way, it's not just me telling the dog, sit down, stay, go over there, place, come here. So it's not that we actually At one point, after the dog understands the command, we actually start playing with the dog. So they're doing their commands and they're learning all of it, but they're learning it through play.
Nice. And so the equipment, I assume that the dogs are climbing on the equipment, building confidence. Could you share a little bit about the value of using some of that equipment for helping them learn? And
Oh, sure, absolutely. Equipment, I think, is so important when you're training a dog, just because of the confidence level. So when we take dogs across the dog walk, or we take them through a tunnel, or we get 'em oriented to the teeter totter, we're not just doing it just because these are the things that agility would teach them. We're doing it for the confidence. They're on a different surface. They're on an elevated surface. The surface is moving. The surface feels different. So it's not just grass, it's not just concrete, it's not just gravel. We put different surfaces in there. Sometimes we put a tarp out that makes sounds when they move. And this is just all confidence and exposure, to their environmentals that just, make the dog more confident in what they're doing, in their environment. So it's really, really important whether you're playing or whether you're actually teaching agility. It's just really important for them.
yeah, I just want to dive into that a little bit because I think there's a lot of people that reach out and they're like, I don't know, I have this great dog and I want to do agility with them, but they don't realize, oh my gosh, there's so much running and it's hard. But just using agility equipment, there's so much great value there, but they don't have to get crazy and learn all the
Mm,
techniques.
right. No. So I teach group lessons on Thursday at a resort. It's called Bentley's Possum Resort. So every Thursday I go there and I teach group lessons. So last Thursday we had our graduation. On every graduation night, it's an 8-week class. So on eighth week of every class, I always bring in some of this equipment. And the reason I do it are for two reasons. One, so we can, introduce, the dogs to it. The dogs can play. The dog's going to have a good time. Some dogs run right up and they love it. Other dog you have to coax up. What I mean? You have to go through the whole introduction slowly to the equipment. But at the same time, I'm telling these owners, this is mental stimulation for your dog. This isn't just put them out in the backyard so they can run, because that does not mentally stimulate them at all. But here, they have to jump through the hoop. They have to get on here. You're telling them to sit. You're telling them to down. They're using their mind. And another reason why I bring it is because I show them all that stuff, all that agility equipment my husband made. Now, it is regulated to what AKC standards say it needs to be regulated to, but it's all stuff that they can actually make in their home with the stuff they already have that they can do with their dogs at home to mentally stimulate them. So, I mean, there's a lesson in everything that I do.
Yeah, and there's a lot of puppies. I mean, everybody can envision like a puppy and they see stairs for the first time or you have to get in a vehicle. And so know there's carryover there that will help them in their day-to-day life.
Right. You would be surprised how many puppies have never seen stairs if they live in a house that has a ranch and they just simply don't know how to go up them. We live in a ranch. We do have a basement, but when my dogs were puppies, I had literally take them and show them how to. They had no idea what to do. So I mean all of that, and then that you show them once and they've got it, and then after that they've got it. That's that confidence building that we were talking about.
And you mentioned that you incorporate play into your training. Could you elaborate on where you were going there? Because I'd love to hear
Oh, yeah,
more.
sure. Now, so when a dog is playing, that means they're engaged. A lot of times, if you're just, going to do an obedience session, you say heel, sit down. You know what I mean? The dog's doing it, and they might be doing it perfectly, but they're not. They're not engaged in it. When you play, your movement changes, your voice changes, your attitude toward what they're doing changes. So therefore, they can't help but change their attitude towards you. Sometimes when we're doing play, and play is great for impulse control too. So if you're saying sit down, stop, stay, but you're running around, the dog really wants to get going and start playing with you. Say I stay, and they're holding back and they're holding back, and I mean that's an active engagement.
So, and make sure I understand maybe a real life scenario when my dog's excited and they're at the park and they're all fired up. I could maybe slide some of those sits downs and they'll be able to listen while they're in that excited state of mind.
Yep, that is that's one of the reasons that that we do it, and we also when like during my board and train, we also proof them out in those environments. So just because your dog can do it in the facility doesn't mean that you can step out of the facility on the sidewalk and have your dog do that exact same movement, because you're going to set yourself up and the dog for failure. Not that the dog forgot what he was supposed to do; he just needs that little one-on-one focus again. Oh, I need to refocus. Okay, so I still have to listen to you out here. Okay, I can do that. And then when we take them to the store, wait a minute, I still have to listen to you? Okay, I can do that. But I mean, so you're kind of refocusing. You're not necessarily reteaching, but you're just refocusing in each environment so the dog knows, oh, I got to listen to you no matter where I'm at. And, obedience and things like that is a great way to bring a dog back down. If they're really, high in energy. And another thing that you can do is lower your energy. So our dogs mimic our energy. So if we're curled up on a chair with a book sitting there, the dog's usually curled up at your feet. But I mean, if you're up jumping around, running here and running there, so is your dog. So, if you want your dog to settle down, check your energy level, and then yeah, I mean, just force them to refocus on you, and that'll bring them down too.
Wow, that was really powerful what you just said there. And it's interesting because the other day I had someone say to me, because I'm not the most confident person and I don't love confrontation. So the suggestion was you should watch more like Gordon Ramsay or like Bar Rescue or one of those, kind of bro shows that you start to mirror the
Yeah.
behaviors. And it just made me think of what you were describing there. That was really well said.
Yes. No, your dogs do that too.
Yes. Now you mentioned kind of a buzzword in dog training that was board and train. Could you explain for anyone listening that might not know what a board and train is?
Sure. A board and train is where we will intake a dog, and the dog will stay with us for a specific amount of time. My usual board and trains are 2 weeks. If and that's just for like a basic on leash obedience, but they get proofed off off site. They get intro to place. Now, as a trainer, I don't consider a dog trained on place until he can stay there for half an hour with distractions, with high distractions. So what we do is we introduce that concept to him. Start introducing the recall. The recall is one of those where it takes a little bit of time. If somebody says, "Hey, I can give you a recall in 3 days if I work with your dog 5 minutes a day," run from that person, because it's just not true. Recall takes it's a relationship. It takes work. So it does. We don't get there overnight. Although you can get quite far with dogs overnight. You can't get that, far from them. So our board and trains are usually 2 weeks. I do occasionally do a 4 week one or a 6 week one with a behavior issue, like a reactivity or an aggression or something that I need to work out of the dog. So those will be like a longer board and train. But in there, they'll do their basic obedience on leash, meaning they will be reliable on leash. What I generally tell people is they want too much too fast, and they'll start giving their dogs commands if for an on leash only training. And I have to say, whoa, 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 back up. If your dog is not listening and will not listen to you on leash, they will not listen to you off leash. And just because your dog's listening to me doesn't mean that that they're going to listen to you. They understand they have to listen to me before, if the dog's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, however old the dog is, it's had that much time to practice not listening to you,
Mm.
however long you've had the dog. So now it's a teaching moment that you're going to have to say from here on out, this is how it's going to be, to get that level of relationship. So yeah, so those are the board and trains. They come to me, they stay with me the entire time. Through the board and train, I do not allow the owners to come back, just to like visit with their dog, because the dog doesn't, it's not really fair because the dog doesn't understand why they're not going home with the owner. So what I do is I videotape every one of my training sessions. And then every couple of days, I'll send a clip. to the owner saying, "Hey, this is where your dog's at. This is what what we're learning now." Because I think that's important for them to stay engaged the entire time, even though they're not with the dog. And that just
Mhm.
builds them up, builds that excitement for when they do pick them up. They're like, "Yeah, I really want to, yep, nope, we're going to change. This is what's going to happen. We're going to go for a walk at this time. We're going to give the dog a routine, which the dog's never had before, that type of thing for our boarding for our boarding trains. So yeah, it's really all depends on what you want. Like our 6 week one would even be an off leash. So we do the on leash to the off leash with a solid recall in a solid place. Just in 2 weeks, I can't get that far.
Something you said about sending the dog's owner the video of you working with the dog comes back to what we were just talking about mirroring behavior. And that would be something that I would, if I was have my dog flirty with you and you sent me videos, I'd be like, I'm going to be like studying these so that I can learn Tiffany's movements and timing and things, even if it's just a little video so that it helps me when I'm put back into the picture with my dog.
Yeah, and that's actually another reason why I do it. So they have that
Wow.
resource. It's like, well, how did she get him to go down? What signal did she use? And it's all in those videos that I send. So, I mean, each one of the commands that we do is detailed in those videos. And then we do, one where, we're just doing the one command, then we add another command. Now we're just doing, we're doing those all together pretty soon. The dog's doing five, six, 7 commands all at once. Saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. And the dog's just responding. And that's, I think that's kind of eye opening for the owners.
Definitely.
So yeah, yeah. And then we do
Yes.
when we then with those board and trains, I also offer, depending on how long they are, anywhere from 4 to sometimes I do unlimited, depending on what kind of a behavior modification that I'm doing. Private lesson follow ups on that, and then those. So I do the board and train. I teach the dog. I educate the dog. And those follow ups, I'm educating the owner. So it's twofold.
Makes perfect sense. Transferring the training to the owner through those
Yes.
follow up
Yeah.
lessons.
One of the things that I absolutely make sure of when they leave is, do you know how to hold this dog accountable? Don't give the dog a command that that you cannot or you refuse
Mm,
to force. Don't do it. Bad things happen.
yeah. Yeah. Inconsistency. Now, you mentioned a couple words when you were talking about the board and train, and one was place and the other was recall. And I just wanted to maybe have you elaborate a little bit on how those are so valuable. Obviously, place, around the house, things like that, when you're watching TV, when you're eating, and then the recall, which is the come command. But just to let folks know, like how that incorporates into your training and how important those are.
Um, I think as a trainer, most trainers will tell you those are probably two of the most important commands you can give your dog. I mean, before sit, down, stay, before any of those, a solid recall and a place command. A solid recall can save your dog's life. I mean, if
Hmm.
you live like in a suburb or on a street, like close to the street, and your dog's running and there's a car coming, if you could turn that dog around or have that dog drop where he is, that can save his life. And then the place is wonderful because the place just makes your life so much easier. The dog knows how to go to the place. The doorbell rings, the dog goes to the place. Somebody comes in, the dog goes to the place. You're eating, the dog's not sitting there begging for food. They're on their place. So that literally will, just makes your life so much easier. But the recall can actually save their life. So I think those are probably two of the most important commands that you can give any dog.
Agreed, agreed. You use them on a daily basis,
Mhm.
whereas I could go months and I'm like, I don't even think I've told Flirty to sit at all. Like it's but
Right.
place and the come command daily. Fantastic. Now, I did want to pick your brain a little bit about reactivity. So, let's say somebody listening now has, I know you love all the breeds, but you've got German Shepherds is like kind of your starting breed. So, let's say somebody's at home right now with a German Shepherd. Maybe describe reactivity and share a little bit about your insight on what they need to hear from you.
Sure. So reactivity is you really need to get to the bottom of reactivity. So first of all, if we can understand why a dog is reactive and we can pinpoint a trigger of what makes that dog reactive, then reactivity is actually an easy fix. Most of the time, we don't know that because something could have happened to that dog that you have absolutely no idea. So you're trying to piece this together and you're like, nothing happened to the dog. Well, while you are walking the dog and paying attention to something else, maybe another dog, not even making contact, you know what I mean, scared your dog. Maybe they were in a fear period. You know what I mean? Maybe they just, they just took it wrong. You know what I mean? And it scared him. And he did a little backflip, and you're like, no, come on. And you didn't understand the extent of just what went on in that interaction. That can be, that can be reactivity. Reactivity can lead to aggression. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, if your dog in reactivity, that's just one step closer to aggression. And reactivity doesn't get better. It only gets worse. It's just like anything else. If you have a problem, it never gets better. If you don't do anything about it, it only gets worse. So the first thing I tell people to do, of course, is stay out of the dog parks. Just stay out of them. There are some times where I will send, if the dog is working on dog on dog reactivity type, work, then I will tell them to go to a dog park. I said, you're on the outside of that fence. You're working your dog where all the commotion is, but you're not stepping foot inside that dog park. Unfortunately, all it takes is just one. It takes one incident to, um, you know, create, such a behavior issue or reactivity or anxiety in your dog that you're spending thousands of dollars now working that back out. And, just because you want your dog, to be around other dogs, that needs to come into a controlled situation where the temperament of that other dog. And then if you want then those dogs interact, sure. A lot of times we give our dogs reactivity and we don't even realize it. The majority of dogs that are reactive, it's on us. It's on their owners, because of this little thing called socialization. So socialization to me and you means, oh, we need to interact. We need to mingle. We need to go talk to people and be up in their space. And that's what it means to humans. Not so with dogs. A socialization exercise with a dog is having two dogs in a room, both on leash, noticing the other dogs over there. That's socialization. That's really, they don't need to mingle. They don't need to go over and see every single dog. Now I understand that there are those friendly breeds that, that really want that for the most part. And if we're talking German Shepherds, German Shepherds are naturally suspicious anyways. They're not exactly, the golden retrievers that, hey, I want to be friends with everybody. They're introverts, they're not the as a general rule of thumb. Now I have seen some pretty laid back and friendly German Shepherds too, but for the most part, I mean, those are they're just they suspect everybody. But like I said, though, we give our dogs reactivity issues because we go to socialize them. We don't understand what the dog needs in socialization. And when we create the fear, we create the nervousness, and we create the anxiety that's now coming out in their behavior some other way. So, yeah, so reactivity, I deal a lot with reactivity.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. One thing that stood out to me was that you have to be observant to what is going on around you. And I know for me as a dog trainer, if I'm walking, I'm always like on guard. I'm sure you are
Mhm.
too.
Yep.
Now I went for a walk one day with my mom and she was visiting and she's walking along and she's like, "Did you see those purple flowers? I saw that dog over there that was looking at Flirty the wrong way. Did you see that?" No idea. But it's just like kind of what's in your head, like what you focus on, what's part of your world. But sometimes we as humans might need to be a little bit more careful about our surroundings. Um, my mom will almost always just, walk through like a gang or something. And I'm like, "Mom, what are you doing? Where are you going?" But just not really careful about her environment. But me, on the other hand, I am very cautious. I always want to protect my precious angel. That being said, though, when you were saying sometimes we inadvertently like, cause reactivity, I also have to be careful of that. So I'm not like tightening up on the leash and getting weird. So Flirty picks up on that stuff.
Right. And I have had actually recently a couple of reactivity leash, dog on dog or dog on people reactivity that when I got them to my facility, I really didn't see that issue. And it was because I wasn't looking for a problem when I took them out. I am working right now with a dog on dog reactivity to where it turns into aggression if the dog gets to the other dog. And right now, she is probably, I would say, at a 15 maybe percent reaction rate. Other than that, there is no reaction when I'm taking her near dogs or even in the vicinity of dogs. When her owner had her, she screams. I mean, if you've never heard a dog scream, it's pretty powerful. And I think a lot of the reason is because I'm working her. If there's going to be a problem, I'm not embarrassed about it because I think a lot of owners, they get embarrassed when their dogs are reactive, especially to
Mm,
other dogs where they get to the end of the leash and they lunge and they bark and they're out of control. And the owners are trying to, back up and, trying to control this leash of this out of control dog. And it is, it's embarrassing. It's like, well, I can't even control my own dog. And I think for me, the reason that I don't get such a reaction from them is because one, I'm not looking for it, or two, I'm ready for it. I'm just like, if you're going to react, this is what we're going to do. You know what I mean? So my emotion is out of it. Emotions are something that cause reactivity because dogs' noses are so powerful that every time that we have an emotion, whether it's fear, whether it's nervousness, anxiety, frustration, you're mad, any kind of emotion we have, we drop a pheromone, and each one of those have a different pheromone. So when you say my dog can pinpoint my mood, they really can. And what they're seeing is you're like, oh gosh, here it comes, here it comes. I don't want her to, act like that. And all of a sudden you are flooding them with, I am so nervous. I don't even think that I can breathe right now. And then the dog
mm.
is like, oh, my person's nervous. I need to be nervous. I need to be alert. I need to, I need to be, there's something to worry about here. And so a lot of times we inadvertently cause the reactivity, not just because we don't know how to socialize right, but then because we put them in situations where, they shouldn't be in, and then we don't know how to get them back out of the situation. So sometimes we lose trust with our animal. And when you see a dog that is reactive to another dog or reactive to a person, and they're not listening to their owner, really what you're seeing is a dog that don't believe that their owner can handle it, so they have to handle it. So
Yeah,
it's all relationship. It's a relationship, and that's where, I mean, that we need to start fixing it at the relationship level.
very interesting. Very interesting. Um, Socialization. You've mentioned that word a few times and talked about interactive socialization versus maybe non-interactive socialization where you're still socializing, but the other dog's over there, my dog's here. We're kind of socializing, but we're not interacting about
Mhm.
it. Could you expand a little bit more on all of that good stuff? Because I think there's a lot of confusion, like you said, about socialization, and just that word means our dog has to interact.
Sure. So socialization is basically when you're talking about a dog and a dog's, point of view, socialization is just exposure. You're not interacting. You're not, intertwining. You're not coming up and, and meeting them nose to nose, or, or whatever. Now, some dogs, yes, if you have a neighbor and the dogs need to get along, if you have other dogs in your house. I mean, I have 5 dogs. They play with each other. They don't play with any other dogs. They play with each other. But socialization for a dog just means exposure. Exposure just means being able to see it. When we talk about in behavior modification, we talk about desensitization. All desensitization is getting them used to something. So if I had a dog that was afraid of this water bottle, depending on the severity of it, that water bottle might sit like on the floor in the corner of the room, just there, not moving. It's just there. The dog at first may flip out because this water bottle's there, but we keep the water bottle there and we keep exposing him. I mean, we don't run him up to the water bottle. Our exposure may be, at such of a distance that the dog can handle it, because reactivity is a funny thing. So think of it like your bullseye, right? So the outer or the very, very middle ring, that is no learning is taking place at all because that's the comfort zone. That is their absolute comfort zone. They know they are safe and they are not learning. Even if they can see what they normally would act to off in the distance, they're still in their comfort zone. No learning takes place. So the next ring of the bullseye, right? That's their alert zone. This is where, oh, wait a minute, they're getting a little bit closer. I'm noticing this, I'm noticing that. They might start prancing, you know what I mean? They might, start keep looking over, but they're still able to, if you tell them to sit, they can sit. If you say here, they can say here, or they can come here. If you say, come on, let's go, they can start walking with you. So then that's the middle section of your bullseye. The outer section of your bullseye, through the middle to the outer, that's your threshold. Once they are over that threshold, that is reactivity and learning, all learning stops. We do not want to keep a dog over the threshold any longer than we absolutely have to. I say 3 to 5 seconds, get them out of that threshold, because every second that they're in there, that's just, more and more time that they have to, on this learned behavior that they're doing, on this reactivity that, that they're doing. Not necessarily learned behavior, but reactivity is just reaction. But we don't want them there any, 3 to 5 seconds, that's it, back them back up, get them under control. And then you'll know where your threshold is. Now you know your working zone. So now we can really start working that dog in reactivity, without getting too close. So go back to your water bottle. Water bottle's here. We start way over here. If it's every day or if it's, throughout the day, depending on the severity of the dog, this might take a week for a dog to even come near this water bottle. Instead of another dog, they might not like it the first time, but the second time you introduce it to them, okay, fine, it's my best now. So it all depends on the severity of the reactivity. We go at the dog speed. The dog tells us how far that we want to
Mm.
go. We can't push the dog. If we push too far too fast, we'll lose what we've gained, and then we'll have to start, back up and start all over with.
Yeah, it kind of got me thinking about when we pick a route where we're going to walk our dogs. And I always choose a safe route, and I have to stick to my route because I want to make sure I don't run into off leash dogs or trouble.
Uh-huh.
So if I really wasn't cognitive of picking a safe route for my dog, and every day I'm walking past maybe a house where dogs come running out and attack the fence, and my dog's getting activated by that. Every time I go past, it's just building and building. If I just cross the street and walk this way, I could be avoiding getting so close and creating such a problem. And that's where I think people just are like, "But I just walked past here. He just does it. I'm not sure. He's just a bad dog." But we have choices of routes that we could take, and that's what I'm kinda hearing, like, in your threshold, like, people could be making moves now to at least avoid getting right into
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
threshold.
So you have to be careful right there because we don't want to avoid our whole life. We
Yeah,
do
that's where you
expose him,
need Tiffany.
but you don't have to expose them up close and personal on the first day. But I
Yeah,
mean, but the more you expose him to that, the better he's able to handle that. So dogs learn through repetition. They are conceptual place learners. What they're going to learn is they are learning in that moment. So when we tell a dog that they're doing something right, we have to tell them literally within 1.5 seconds. That's our yes word. That's our clicker. That's our, we click, we say, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. Then you can go and get the treat and give it to me. You don't have to, have the treat ready right there because we don't want to create treat dependent dogs, but you can really actually work with, even if it's across the street, all those dogs are over there, yipping and yelling and, and doing whatever that is that they want to do, what I mean? And then you can actually start, bringing the dog closer and closer. So the dog learns just how to ignore that. They're sitting there jumping on the fence, going crazy. And you could just say, come on, let's go. I mean, pretty soon your dog will be able to actually walk past that. But yeah, so redirection is something of like what you were talking about. It's great, but it's a band-aid. So depending on what
mm,
the reactivity is. Now you could have, something that is, so minute that a simple redirection, that will work. I'm talking about cases that are, that are really severe, that it's not necessarily impairing, the functions in their life, but it's really reducing the quality, what I mean, of
yeah.
things that this dog can be doing because they have so much fear, so much anxiety, what I mean, so much mistrust that if we could patch that, then the quality of their life would just skyrocket.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hope here for folks that are experiencing reactivity with their dog. Um, if you want to, find a solution for that, call Tiffany. Now, maybe you could share, Tiffany, a little bit about like when people reach out, like what that process looks like so that they can, you know, talk to you and figure out the best course of action to help them with their situation.
Sure. So there's a couple different ways that that you're able to get a hold of me. You can I've got my the business phone. You can call me on the business phone. And I'm are we going to put the that information up on here on the
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you can call me on business phone. You can email me, or I do have a submission form on my website that clients can fill out. Give me a little bit of a rundown of what they're needing, what type of service that they're needing. Um, and then what happens at that point is I will contact you. We talk on the phone for a little bit. I get a little bit more information, and then I will schedule a consultation. Now the consultations are free. What they do is they come in. I actually get to meet the dog. I now talk with you a little bit more. We fill out an observation form with the dog, and then you actually view my facility, because I think it's really important that if you're going to leave your dog with me, that you know where one you're leaving your dog, and two what that dog's day is going to be like. Is he going to be in a kennel? Yes, he's going to be in the kennel. Is he going to be in the kennel 24 hours? No, that dog is up and out of that kennel so often throughout the day. They never just sit in there. And that way, sometimes when you explain that to somebody, it's a picture's worth 1,000 words. So when they come in, I can say, hey, this is where where he'll be out during the day when I'm working with him. He gets a big break. He goes out to the big door kennels that have their own private runs. And, then we do our confidence building portion of the training. This is the yard that we do it in. And then I have them sign a waiver to where, I'm going to take them off site. Now I'm taking them to parks. I'm taking them to stores. I'm taking them to bike trails. Just to make sure that they understand that wherever, the environment takes them, they still have to listen to me. But so we do all of that. And then at that particular meeting, if they still want to go ahead, then we schedule. And then after that, they just, they come and they drop the dog off. At the end of their stay, whether it's a 2, 4, 6, whatever weeks stay, I usually will block off about an hour to an hour and a half to where we do a go home lesson. So I take a video of what they were doing in the beginning
Mm,
and what they were doing the morning of, their last day with me. And then we actually put them side by side in a comparison. And then, we show the owner, this is what he was doing. This is what he can do now. So when you ask him to sit and he doesn't do it, this dog can do it. He needs held accountable. He just doesn't realize that he has to do it for you,
mm,
but he will, right? So then we go through, this is how, you're going to get them, to move. Just like with the automatic sit, they come to a sit, and most clients, they'll take the leash and they'll kind of like guide them back. And then I'll have to say, don't guide them back, set them up again, tell them to heel, go 10 steps. I said, and just come to your stop and wait for him to do it. And then when they do it, everybody's so amazed. I said, he knows what he's doing. Allow him that chance to show you that he knows what he's doing. And then another thing that I always tell them is, don't expect, just because you brought your dog to a trainer, any trainer, me, anybody, just because you brought your dog to a trainer, and this is, you're looking at this video and this dog can do anything, right? All these commands that we said we were going to get this dog to do, he can do them on cue. He can do them on only hand signal, only verbal, doing great. That doesn't mean it's going to make him a good dog in your house.
mm.
Just because he does it here, when he goes home, he doesn't understand that he has to do it there too. So there's a little bit of effort on their part, about, what their expectations are. So I always tell them, this isn't a one and done. He's not coming here, basically I'm teaching him how to start reading. You're going to finish that at home, throughout your daily process of how you expect that dog to act. And it's kind of like a toddler, they're not supposed to have the pen. Go over, take the pen off of them. If they're chewing on something they're not supposed to have, nope, not that. This, it's still that process. But yeah, and then that's, for the board and trains, that's generally what we do. We do private lessons for those individuals that really want to work with their dogs. I generally don't recommend private lessons, because for people that don't really want to, work with their job, but it's kind of like they think it's a cheaper version. By the second private lesson, they're like, okay, we're not moving fast enough. So in a private lesson, I don't actually teach the dog. I teach you how to train your dog. And, sometimes that doesn't move fast enough for them. Now, I do have one that is, I just took a bulldog on an 8-week private lesson program. Yeah, so he is deaf and he's visually impaired. So we're working touch commands with him. So he's not a kennel recipient at all. So he comes
Right.
once a week. Yep. And then I do service dogs. So I can do, we do service dog tasks and things like that. So we do a variety services. So depending on what you would need, I've had people call. I'm an AKC evaluator for a good canine good citizen, so I can title a dog in the CGC or even trick dog. That's one of the things that I can judge. So you can send into the AKC. So it really depends on what it is, what service that you're needing. Depending on what that is looking like. So that was it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and a good starting point too for folks that maybe I want to get into service dog, work with my dog, or just helping with reactivity, get a good off leash trained dog. The starting point would be to go to your website, and I'll just kind of read it out here so folks have it. But defender K9LLC.com, and the K and the 9 is the letter K and the number 9 LLC.com. Perfect. And I just was curious about the observation form that you fill out during that consultation evaluation process. Is there lots of good questions on there?
Yeah, so there basically it gives me an overview of your dog. It'll give me, where you got the dog, when you got the dog, how you got the dog, because all that makes a difference in behavior. Whether there's kids in the house, whether there's other pets in the house, what the exercise looks like the eating habits, what their method of discipline is. How do you discipline your dog? Like where they sleep. Where they sleep is a funny one because it really doesn't matter to me where they sleep, but it tells me a lot about the owner. It tells me what kind of boundaries owner sets, for the dog. So that's actually why that's on there. So I think it's a very important question. And then we go into, all about the dog. Is he reactive to people? Is he reactive to dog? Does he have trouble jumping? Is he an excessive chewer? Does he bark? And then all of those, little whatever you want to call them, is he aggressive? Has he ever bitten, anyone? But yeah, so, a lot of times, these nuisance behaviors that people have, they stop when you get your dog trained. It's only because what we do here is we break down the barrier of the communication between owner and the dog. So the dog actually starts understanding what the owner wants. And if the dog will comply, if the dog actually understands what you want that dog to do, he'll comply. Dogs are people pleasers. Where it gets fuzzy is where the dog is unsure. So the owner thinks the dog should know how to sit, but if they've asked him in a different way or something happens in the dog's mind where he becomes unsure, he'll start offering different behaviors, which is going to upset the owner because the owner thinks the dog knows how to sit. And then all of a sudden, now the dog's offering all these other appeasement behaviors to try to make you happy again. And it's all because of communication. So we take all of that out. We give them general manners so they don't pull on the leash anymore when you're walking them, which is a big one. People don't walk their dogs because their dogs walk them. So that's a huge one. So we take care of that one first, first off. And the other one is like the jumping. The jumping, sometimes they say, well, my dog will dig, my dog, my dog will chew. So we'll address those issues. But generally though, once you have an obedient foundation on your dog, a lot of those nuisance behaviors, they
Clean up.
leave. And
Yeah, they
then one of
clean
the
up.
last things that I do with my clients when they leave is when they come to pick the dog back up, I'll ask them, you know, do you understand, what kind of a dog do you have? Right. And do you understand the breed specific, behavioral challenges or instincts of this particular breed? So like I have a golden doodle out there, they're like, well, they keep taking my socks. Well, so a golden doodle is a golden retriever and a poodle, right? So they've got qualities from both of those breeds. Well, a retriever, he wants to retrieve. So, and I asked them, well, how do you satisfy his retrieval needs? And a lot of times, they'll either say, "Well, I don't know," or they'll say, "Well, we play ball." Well, playing ball and playing fetch, that's not retrieving. So what happens is they don't satisfy the retriever need in them, and what's happening is the dog is going around. So to be a retriever, the dog's using his nose to go and find something. That's what the retriever does.
Mm.
So when you're talking about hunting, you're talking about your Labrador retriever, right? He goes, finds, the pheasant, whatever the hunter's hunting, picks it up, brings it back. He's finding it with his nose, not his eyes. So in these cases where you have these types of dogs and you're bringing them indoors, but you don't give them the outlet to satisfy that instinct for them, then they usually will start with like socks. And one of the reasons for that is because it has the scent of the people on there. The dog wants to be closer to the people, but he just decides, okay, then I'm going to use my nose. I found this. That's my prize. So a simple, hygiene. Here's your ball. Toss that in a little bit of tall grass or whatever. Now tell the dog to go find it. That's retrieving, not fetch. Fetch is more prey driven. That's retrieving, and a lot of people don't know that. So before they leave, I make sure they understand what exactly kind of dog they have, what behavior is normal, because a lot of times they're like, okay, well, I want them to stop doing that. Okay. Yeah, I got a sheepdog. You understand what sheepdogs do? Well, he herds us. And he circles the kids. He does. Do you understand what a sheepdog does? This is what you got. So a lot of times, and that actually changed the relationship too, because I don't think people think about that. They think about, oh, this is a cute dog. I want that, but they don't know the implications of breed specific behavior in DNA. So yeah, and I do. I just, and I ask him to the point where, they it just I make my go home lessons very interactive. So I can, have them go home with as much knowledge. And then we do, 4 or 5, 6 follow-ups, each week after that, just to make sure that they're maintaining what we did.
Yeah, knowledge is power, and it really gives them good understanding of why their dog is doing certain behaviors and, help with your help to find solutions to satisfy some of those needs that the dog has. I love it. I also love that you have the observation form that you fill out and you're really triaging or asking a lot of questions. And that tells you so much as a dog trainer about what's going on with the owner and with the dog. And I love that. I just wanted to point out that, if someone is looking for a dog trainer and the trainer just says, here's my programs, this is what you should do without asking any questions, that might be a red flag. Just like if I'm in the doctor's office and the doctor comes in and just gives me a pill without asking any questions or running any tests, that'd
Sure.
be weird. So I
Yes.
think what you're doing is so important. And for people to take note, if they're considering a trainer, that would be something to make sure that the trainer does is ask a lot of questions to learn more about my dog and my situation.
Sure. And every program that you do with a dog should be tailored to that dog. All dogs learn differently. All dogs, some dogs take a little bit longer to learn a command. Some dogs can just breeze right through it. So with those particular dogs that, are breezing right through everything, I'll start giving them other commands that aren't even on the program, because if learning shouldn't stop. Learning should never stop. And I was always one of those ones where, why would you ever do trick dog with trick training with your dog? What is trick training and why would you do that? Well, when I actually started trick training with my German Shepherd, I got my answer, because the bond that you get with your dog when you can be silly, but you're
Mm.
not just being silly with your dog. When you trick train your dog, they're being silly back with you. That's powerful. Even my type of, so I've got 3 German Shepherds and a Malinois, and I've got a rescue little pitty. She was born without her front legs, so she's basically a potato sack couch. But and don't feel sorry for her. She runs the roost. She bullies all these other dogs. But even though that I have those 4 high powerful dogs, and half of them are in bite work, I've got 2 dogs that are explosive detection dogs, and I've got 2 of them that can do man trailing, so they trail human scent. And that's another thing that we offer here, at our facility. We offer those, specialty trainings. But even them, they have trick dog in them, just because, you're not always working, but you are always interacting with them. So, I mean, if it's that they're not just robots. You literally, if you want a relationship with them, you're constantly interacting with them. My my one dog, I always tell people when something happens to her, come check on me. I will not be okay. She is my soulmate. I told my husband, I said, I'm sorry, but this dog is my soulmate. And we can talk with our eyes. I just have to look at her. She has to look at me, and we know what each other's thinking. It's great.
Yeah, I
It's
have
great.
one of those. I have one of those. Um, I love
Well,
the
that's why
trick.
you check on me.
Yeah, yeah, mine just turned 10, so yeah, it's a tough time having an older dog. I have a 16-year-old too. But I love the trick dog stuff, super fun. I did that when my baby was a puppy, and it was just you're right, it's stuff you can do in the living room too.
Yep. Yep.
So when it's cold outside, get their minds going. Such fun stuff. Do you have trick dog classes or just kind of incorporate it here and there in your lessons?
I'm actually at the one group lessons that I teach at, we're going to start incorporating them there. I can teach them at my facility. Um, but yeah, no, those are just, things that, it's just wonderful, like the whole trick dog thing. But no, we can definitely teach them, here at the facility. A lot of times, some of the service dog um, foundations is what we would consider, oh, my dog can do a trick. Look what my dog can do. And that's actually the foundation of a service dog animal. That, and once your dog gets the trick, the trick portion of that, it's like they want to be around you. These dogs aren't going to wander off because they want to be around you. The first thing I tell all of my clients is two things that I tell them. If your dog's not listening to you, stop feeding him out of a bowl. It all comes from your hand. They work for their food. I mean, they're still getting their food, but we're not just giving them to them. It holds more value when you feed them out of your hand. And then, like I said, with the trick, it's just, with the recall, those dogs will you be more exciting than anything in your environment. That dog wants to stay with you. And sometimes that's hard. But if you have that relationship with them, but yeah, so I do trick training in group lessons. I can do trick training in group lessons at my facility when they're offered. But and then at the end of it, we say, okay, you've got depending on if you're doing CGC also, the trick level, how many you have to do is different. If you're only doing one versus the other, but it's like, okay, let's go ahead and do them, and then I evaluate weight them right there. So, and then yep, that's how that works.
I love the trick dog stuff. I love the CGC. I think it's so fun and good for us to have goals. And when we set a goal with our dog and say, I am going to get my trick dog novice, I am going to get my CGC title, like it motivates you to get the work done. And it's our dog, they're awesome. They're amazing creatures. And that is just such a fun way to experience them. That's easy in your living room. Like
Yes.
tricks are super easy and
Yes.
fun. And Flirty was playing the piano when she was like 8 weeks old. It was so cute. So all the good
Right?
pictures and stuff, it's just so memorable. It's such an important thing.
Well,
I love it.
and when you start interacting with your dog on a daily basis, I mean, they become part of you don't see them as, you know, there's kind of a danger to that a little bit too, because you don't see them just as your dog anymore. It's like, you know what I mean? Oh no, they are part of our family,
Mhm.
but we have to draw the line at treating them like children. We have to draw that line. I mean, we can feel, you know what I mean, that, oh, this is my fur baby. But I mean, the way that we treat them and interact with them, we actually, going back to that reactivity, we actually cause a lot of reactivity by doing that because dogs are not people. They lack the critical thinking skills that we have. And, so they get nervous when we actually start treating them like a little child. They get
Mm.
nervous, they get anxious. That's when the nipping comes, the reactivity. Sometimes it can turn into aggression. But yes, but I mean the relationship that you would get with your dog through all these, you know what I mean, added little things that you're doing with them. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's out of this world. There's actually not another feeling.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Could you share a little story of a transformation that you've had with a client, maybe reactivity or something else?
I'm sure I had I had a dog. It was a German Shepherd. For whatever reason, I get a lot of German Shepherds. But he was a German Shepherd. Actually, it was she turned out to be a great friend of mine. It was one of my not my first client, but it was, very, when I opened my business, it was, pretty close, to the first, 5 or 10 of my clients. And he had a lot of nervous disposition. He was supposed to be a mobility dog. He was supposed to be a service dog. He was a 90-pound German Shepherd, which, height wise, great, he had there, but he had nervousness and shyness in him where he would see people and he would back up, you know what I mean, and try to get behind the owner. First of all, I told him, I said, stop using him. I said, he's going to hurt you, because he's the mobility dog. Because, the gentleman was older. He didn't have a lot of balance. Well, he had balance, but it was, kind of off balance. And so they actually, I think they stopped using him as the service dog, but then they brought him back here and he spent a good 6, 8 weeks with me. Normally, I will, I have training facility out there right now. I've got full kennels, so but I don't normally bring dogs in my house because I've got 5 of my own, and this is their domain. Shadow, I did, just because that's what he particularly needed. By the time he left, he was able to walk past people, you know what I mean, without shying away. And it was just,
Wow.
just to see, you know what I mean, that confidence in him grow. I've had, and I had another dog. As a matter of fact, going back to Shadow, he came, took him 6 days to decide that he was going to have anything to do with me. 6 days. And then
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but on the 6th day, he's like, "Phew, you're my person." And then after that, that was all she wrote. She was just with me. But it was, so when I say that we go on the dog's time, I truly mean we go on the dog's time. But yeah, no, just to see that confidence, because it's debilitating. I don't know if you've ever seen a very, very nervous dog. It's debilitating. It's no life for a dog, especially a German Shepherd. I had another one that was like that too. She was, I mean, to the point where I it was debilitating. She couldn't live outside of her own little house, you know what I mean, and not have anxiety and, you know what I mean, and be sweating and, you know, and yeah, no, and, and you take these dogs and you work with these dogs and you show them that there's another way. And I love the board and trains, a lot of times for that, because it takes them out of their comfort zone. Now they have to figure it out. They're over here and they have to figure it out. And then they start learning, and then they start learning a little bit more, and then they start doing, a little bit more, and it just goes more and more and more and more. And I mean, you just see the look on the dog's face, just like kind of like a kid goes, I did it. And dogs have that look. If you look at a dog just at the right time, you'll see that. Look what I did.
Yep.
Type, especially for those particular dogs. Now our working dogs, we treat totally different than our pet dogs. Our working dogs need to be able to handle that stress, things like that. But, when it comes to, like our personal dogs that are already fearful, we just handle that differently.
Yeah, I really love those fearful dogs. I'm helping my friend at her facility, and just walking in there and having super respect that I've got to take this dog out for a walk right now and get his leash on and everything. And when they let me into their like circle of trust, I'm just like, I feel so privileged. Like those are kind of my
Yes.
my favorites.
Yes,
I
you
think,
do.
yeah, growing up with chow chows, it was like I'm in his circle of trust and I have to be
Yeah,
careful
chow
in
chow.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't yep, nope, they don't trust easily. So
Yep.
so I do actually on my website under the our stories, I have a 2 videos, like comparison videos. This German there was one German Shepherd, it was Cooper's story, on the one on my, website. I would say sit, he would go into a down, and, I mean, he was just all over the place. And then the next video is at the end of our training, we had him at the park. I mean, he was just doing phenomenal, so that's actually on the website.
Nice. I saw that there. So again, folks can go to Defender K9, like letter K number 9, LLC.com to see those.
Correct.
Great. Do you have any other programs that you guys offer that you might want to just share so that it can get on people's radar, like your pet tech program?
Sure. So, with all the training and everything we do, I offer CPR classes for dogs. So, they're geared towards dogs and cats. But I do offer a full, I could do first aid and CPR, which is an 8-hour course, or I can just do the CPR course in 5 hours. So I have that going. I usually, those I go with like clinics and vets and different boarding places, to offer those. I've had clients and I've had people that are just pet owners go. So sometimes I'll go to the community centers and we'll offer those. I do offer a actual handler school. So I do a obedience handler school. There is a service dog handling school. I'm not doing the master program right now, which is the protection, the tracking and trailing, and the scent detection. I don't have that actually on my books yet, but I've got the um, obedience school and the service dog school already set, and then I'll add another one again the next year. The one that's coming up comes from January 5th through like the 27th of February, so it's 8 weeks long.
Nice. Think, once the snow melts and everything, or you get that tracking and trailing up, it'd be a good way for folks to exercise with their dogs. I love watching a dog man trail. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Actually, you can trail in the snow. It water, actually holds.
Not me. I don't really want to be out there
Not
in the
not
snow.
not the handler, but the dog can. No, actually, water actually holds spell. So when you've got, like human remains or cadaver dogs, have you ever seen them? They'll actually taste the water. They're not tasting the water. They have the smell receptacles, and they're pushing it back, to actually smell underneath the water. I mean, no, their noses are. Oh, don't even get me
Amazing.
started on their noses. I can do an entire show just on dogs' noses.
It is. It's
They're amazing. Dogs
magical.
are amazing. It doesn't matter what you're doing with dogs, they're amazing.
Yes, agreed. I think it's is it Jane Goodall, she worked with the
The ape
monkeys, the
lady?
chimpanzees. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I watch videos of her and she's always saying, but my favorite animal is not a chimpanzee. They're too human like. She digs the dogs too. They're
Yeah.
the best
There's a
creature.
reason why dogs are man's best friend,
Yeah.
there's a reason why cats are not.
Well
We
said,
love cats, right? But
honey.
there's a reason that they're not man's best friend.
Well, this has been a great conversation. We are at the top of the hour. Is there anything else, Tiffany, that you'd like to add?
No, other than, if you're in my area, and you need a dog, trained, I mean, come talk to me. And if there's something that I cannot do for you, I will reach out to colleagues in my area that I know, hey, they specialize in this sort of training. So if I can't do it, I'm not going to take your money and tell you that I can.
Mm,
I will recommend you, to, wherever you need to be. But in all the years that I've been doing this, I've only recommended one out, and it was a protection case, and only because my decoy just left. So, I'm like, don't have the decoy, can't do it, but I got you guy. I got a guy that can do it for you. So, I mean, I don't actually do that very, very often, but I mean, that's just, those, there, and there are going to be those cases where it's like, I'm not sure about this one, because you can't know everything. And I think the wisest people are the ones who understand, okay, that's not my wheelhouse right here.
yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, come have that conversation with me. I will be completely honest with you. Um, and I make the process so much. I just make it so easy for you. And then, as I update you on, the progress and stuff that your dog is making, I've got a golden in there right now where I don't know if the necessarily updating the dad, it's the kids that like the videos. So as I send them, it's the
Oh,
kids that are watching the videos. But yeah, so I mean, so whatever works. I mean, we will get you taken care of.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciated chatting with you today.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you so much to our listeners. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this, please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And again, I'm Lianne Shinton, and we were with Tiffany Wetzel from, Defender Canine. And be sure to make sure you visit her website if you want to repeat that one more time, just to make sure everybody has it.
Sure. It is Defender K9 with a K and a 9 LLC.com.
And I'll be sure to share it in the comments as well. Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for listening.